coming through when the growth look good on you. Best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep fitting in love.
Yes, people. Yes. It's G. And we're back in the building. Yeah. Another day, another dollar. Another day, another dollar. Guys, please make sure, if you haven't already, that you smash this like button down below somewhere. I think it's like somewhere over there. Make sure, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so ASAP. We have passed our target, obviously, of 200. So next up is the big 250. So please, guys, if you could make sure you just hit that subscribe button and help me get there. So to the game. Obviously, post-match reaction to Brighton versus Liverpool, FA Cup 4th round. Obviously, Liverpool getting through by defeating Wolves in a 1-0 win replay up against Brighton. You know, a team that, you know, this season anyway, we've just had problems with from the jump. A team who've obviously seemed to have developed as well. A team who have definitely developed. Ultimately, Liverpool lost 2-1. Last minute goal from Mitoma. Again, this is definitely one player to watch. This is definitely a player who's on the up and up. Playing under De Zerbi with Brighton this season, he's just been, you know, a revelation for them, to be honest with you. And they keep doing it. Brighton continuously keep doing it, keep churning out these players, you know, keep producing these, you know, quality footballers. You know, I don't know what it is down there. And, you know, what they're reminding me of quite a lot before we get into the game is they're reminding me of what Southampton used to be like. You know, Southampton, you know, good team, used to play very good football, used to develop quite a lot of players, used to bring through a lot of players through, you know, their youth setup, but also just in the sheer fact that they were able to develop players, you know, quite well. And Brighton seem to be doing that, you know, at this present moment in time. But it's almost something a little bit different with Brighton, almost. Again, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. We never know what's going to actually happen. But when I'm watching Brighton, the way that the club is run, the way that, you know, they play their football, where they're even trying to head, it almost seems like, I feel like they are the Southampton of old, but I think that they could break that. You know, I think they could even potentially go one better, you know, get themselves into Europe, a bit like Wolves have done, you know, in previous seasons and stuff like that. So, you know, big up Brighton. And again, big up Brighton on the victory over Liverpool. So, to the game itself. Fortunately, I was lucky enough to not watch the game live, which then gave me the time to, you know, forget social media, come back after the game, watch it back, you know, just kind of see what maybe Jurgen Klopp might have been thinking, you know, during the game, and things like that. Honestly, I think you know, I said it after the game, to be honest with you, you know, and I'm going to do a video anyway on Klopp and stuff like that. But I said it after the game, you know, people been getting at me, you know, saying that, oh, you know, every time I mention about, you know, Klopp leaving the football club, you know, as that's what I would like. Oh, what manager can come in, you know, what manager can manage under these circumstances, etc., you know, the ownership and, you know, just all these various things and components that have obviously happened to Liverpool. And, you know, yesterday's game for me, that, you know, I asked the question again. I was like, you know, people say, you know, well, what manager can come in? And anyone. Do you know what I mean? Literally anyone. I'm sorry, but if we can't find, you know, a manager, and, you know, especially just kind of head into the game. Look, first half 1-1, Liverpool, obviously Brighton obviously head into the break level. So, you know, you kind of think, okay, was it a better performance than, you know, what we were seeing against Brighton in the Premier League, where we lost 3-0? Maybe just a little bit better, if I'm being honest. I'm sure we went in level in that game as well, to my knowledge, I think, or we potentially might have only been one down, but I'm sure we went in that game level as well. So I don't think you would have foresaw potentially what would have happened in that second half. But yet again, you know, he's gone with the midfield. You know, the midfield that everybody wanted. You know, everyone wanted Keita, Thiago, Bajcetic. You know, everyone wanted those three to start. Cool, they start defense. The defense. He's got Ali back in goal again, which kind of confused me, you know, because he had Kelleher for the previous round. I believe Kelleher, you know, just on Kelleher quickly, I think he probably should leave, to be honest. I don't want him to leave. I think he's a very good second goalkeeper to have there, you know, even competent enough to be a number one, you know, potentially somewhere. Hence the reason why I feel he'd want to leave come the end of the season. Just not getting game time, you know, in games like, you know, what we saw against Brighton. Just the sheer fact it's the FA Cup, you know, I expect Jurgen Klopp to play the second goalkeeper. I don't understand what the need was to play Alisson in goal. Doesn't need any rhythm or anything like that, to be honest with you. I don't think the team needs that, you know, whatsoever. But, you know, the first half, I don't want to be too critical of that first half performance. I don't think it was like super poor, but it was, well, against Brighton, you know, the mighty conquering European, you know, giants Brighton, you know, no offense, but, you know, against them, it seemed to be a decent enough, you know, first half, you know, passing the ball, movement was okay. Again, he started with Elliott on that left-hand side, and, you know, sometimes he does make my head, my head kind of, you know, it's like I just need a wobble, you know, but then sometimes I think maybe his head needs a wobble, you know. You bought Elliott as the right winger. You know, that's what he was signed at, you know, when he played for Fulham. He was a right winger. You then try and convert him into a central midfielder. You then send him out on loan and he plays right wing. He doesn't even play central midfield. So it's not even like he has a season whereby he plays in the position that you think he can play, and we get to see what he might potentially look like in that position. He gets to nurture and develop, you know, when he's playing consistently, you know, for Blackburn. He plays right wing. He comes back. He's a central midfielder. Fair enough. You put him in central midfield. We've had a lot of, well, I say a lot, but we've had a couple of injuries in that midfield, obviously, especially at the beginning of the season. So he's obviously going to start. I think Elliott started each of Liverpool's game, or played in every Liverpool match this season, or at least come on. You know, I think he's the only player to actually do so, which tells you obviously the situation that we're in when Elliott is, you know, more or less playing in every single game. You know, that's the type of reliance that Klopp has on him. But again, Klopp really does like him. We then have all these injuries to our left-hand side of the attack. You know, Jota, Diaz, you know, Nunez obviously just coming back from injury and stuff like that. So then Klopp then says, you know, we need to then sign an attacker. You know, that's on Klopp. That conversation is a whole different conversation, but he then decides we need to sign an attacker. We need to sign someone who can play on that left-hand side because of the injuries that we've got, but then also is able to play in other positions on the pitch. So what does Jurgen Klopp do? He decides to put Elliott left wing. You know, like, I'm just getting tired of coming up with some form of, like, reasoning and stuff like, to be honest, people are seeing it for themselves now. You know, people are questioning it themselves now. So I guess it is just one of them kind of things. But it is so mind-boggling at times. Like, honestly, like, why do you play Elliott left wing? You know, what is the actual benefit? It's different even if he was like a right footer. Maybe you might be able to see it and understand it, but he's left footed. So you're going to put him on the left-hand side where obviously predominantly he's going to want to keep cutting in. Now, that might actually be your game, you know, him cutting in with Robbo doing the overlaps. But what we saw against Brighton was for most of the game, Robbo's almost playing on that left-hand side by himself. You know, it's not really working at all down there, in my personal opinion. It's not working down that left-hand side, you know, with Harvey Elliott being there, just because he's naturally left-footed. So, you know, most of the things he's going to want to do is going to be on his left foot, but ultimately he's going to try and cut in as much as possible and almost play in that central position. Again, probably because he's just used to that, you know, in a general sense. But if he's going to do that, then wouldn't it just be best served to have Gakpo out there on the left instead of Gakpo through the, you know, through the middle, and then having Salah stuck out there on the right-hand side again? You know, it just, you know, I saw it online, you know, someone was saying, you know, Klopp will take one step forward, but he takes two back. And it's like, you do one good thing, and what I mean by good is obviously you changed up the midfield. You know, it wasn't really hard to do. Any man with a brain would have been able to understand and see that you kind of needed to change the midfield, you know, because of your loyalty and sentiment. You didn't, but ultimately you did it in the end. You changed the midfield. We finally didn't see Fabinho or Hendo. We'll get onto that in a minute. But we don't see those two guys in the middle. Then obviously you've got Thiago in there. You change the midfield, no problem. Do you know what I mean? Okay, no issue. But then it's like you then mess up the attack. It's like, can you not just... Is it so hard? Like, maybe, you know, guys watching this, maybe you'd have to tell me. Maybe you'd have to explain to me, you know, because like in all my years of football, sometimes I do generally just sit there and think, and I'm not a manager, I'm not no qualified, you know, manager of his level, of course not. But I sit there and think to myself, like, is it like inconceivable to think that you just can't fix the problem, so to speak? Like, is it a thing of that you can only, you know, deal with one thing at a time? So Liverpool have been leaking goals, chances, you know, we conceded again anyway, but, you know, again, it's one of those things where we're conceding so many chances to teams. It's about trying to make us at least defensively stable. Now, everyone got excited, you know, in the Wolves game, Chelsea game, everyone got excited. I saw it everywhere. Oh, you know, Liverpool looks so much better, blah, blah, blah. Me, nah, not really. I think we look more or less the same. And what I mean by that is we might not be, well, we're still giving up chances in every single game. That hasn't actually changed. The chances maybe have lessened a little bit. You know, I think Bajcetic spoke about being a little bit compact and stuff like that. Yeah, you can be compact, but then you lack zero ideas going forward. So it almost is just pointless, because now you're just keeping possession and just keeping the ball for the sake of keeping possession and keeping the ball. You know, it just nothing really looks right, to be honest with you. It just looks like everyone's quite uncomfortable, you know, what's going on. But, you know, you've got like maybe one job, which is just don't concede. You know, just let's make sure we're just so tight and compact in that middle of the park, which then allows for everything else to kind of fall into place. And yeah, it's just... Yeah, I honestly, like I said, guys, let me know, you know, in the comments. Like, I just don't understand why why Klopp can do one good thing, and I'll give him the credit for that. You know, he finally changed the midfield, and it's now a bit of a fluid midfield, and it's just more of an athletic midfield, a midfield that can at least do somewhat of the role that you probably want them to actually do. We can at least see something. At the bare minimum, we can see something. It's not the midfield that is going to do us anything, you know, in the future or anything like that. You know, that's not going to win you anything, but it's at least a midfield that, okay, I get where you're coming from now. But then your attack, you know, what did you sign Gakpo, you know, to do? You know, he's better off, I guess, coming through the left, potentially maybe playing through the centre, but in a different role and in a different system, you know, where he was at PSV. But you've got him here through the middle, but then you've got Elliott to then compensate, putting then Elliott on the left with Salah through the right. I just, sometimes, man, I just don't get it. I really just don't get it. And then, you know, in that second half, you know, as the majority, probably 90 to 95% this season, second half Liverpool drop off in terms of their performance levels. And once they drop off a little bit, you're just seeing this like a theme. Once they drop off, now, you know, I'm looking towards the manager to then say, okay, cool. The levels have dropped off a little bit, no problem. You know, Brighton are a good team at the end of the day. I don't want to do them any disservice, because Brighton, a draw might have been a tad bit fair, but if there was going to be a winner, I would say Brighton would probably deserve it. You know, or they would have just nicked it like they did at the end. They looked to the more attacking threat and things like that. But at least when things are not going necessarily well in the game, or you just need to change something up, you know, we can keep using the excuse of, you know, FSG and the transfer funds and the options and blah, blah, whatever. At the end of the day, he's got options. He's got some type of options. Whether we like the options is irrelevant. He's got options. So use those options to the best of your ability. So you bring Darwin Núñez on, you know, and I'm thinking, you know, maybe he's going to put Gakpo out left, you know, have Darwin through the middle. Bit of a threat down there, but he keeps Darwin, you know, on that left-hand side with Gakpo through the middle. Now, usually, I wouldn't even really have a problem with that, because I think that Darwin Núñez is quite effective down that left-hand side. The problem that you have with that is that your person through the middle is Gakpo, who I don't think is that good in this system. Might be good in a different system, in a completely different way, maybe. But in this system, I don't see where Gakpo fits in at central, you know, in the middle of the attack, you know. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, all right. And then, you know, you've got Fabinho and Hendo, you know, you bring, and Curtis Jones as well added to the mix. You bring those guys on and it's just, you just turn horrible, like in an instant. Like, it was like instantaneous. You just, Fabinho, come on, bad tackle, should have been sent off. You know, it's like everything is just instant. It's like when those guys touch the pitch, and, you know, if this is not a clue to Jurgen Klopp that, yo, they can, especially against Madrid, oh my Lord, they cannot touch the pitch. They cannot touch the pitch against your Real Madrids. No way Liverpool will lose, guaranteed, if they touch the pitch. I don't want to see these guys touch the pitch anymore, because they're showing now, unfortunately, as much as people might love them, they are showing that they are just gone now. That whole whatever they used to do, it's gone now, and that's fine. Not all players can last in this game at the top level for so long. That's fine. Klopp, you've got to see that now, man. Like, these guys cannot play like that anymore. Like, if you are going to bring them on, make sure we're 5-0 up or something. Don't bring them on when it's 1-1. We need to nick a goal, and your substitutions are that. And again, this is where I get to Klopp, and I'm like, I understand, you know, Klopp hasn't always been renowned for his in-game substitutions, and I get that. I totally get that, and I understand that. I'm not trying to say, oh, all of a sudden he's just become this tactically inept. No. I've always thought this, and I think everyone kind of knows, especially in-game substitutions. He's always kind of been like this in terms of makes them so late, and when he does, it's not always the right ones. Yeah, he might get lucky every now and again, as any manager would, but majority of time it's usually like, why did you make that substitution kind of thing? But, you know, we were winning games, you know, so it was always a little bit different. Now you're doing it, trying to almost change a game. For me, it just sends out the wrong message to the players, to the team, the ethos of the team, the style of the team. The opponents look at those kind of things as well, and they get a little psyched up as well. Oh, we've got Fabinho and Hendo on. Looks like Liverpool trying to protect a little bit. Let's go a bit harder. We understand as well that they are declining. We understand that they're not really as good as they were. We're not scared of them anymore. Let's do it. And it's just... It just keeps going on and 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 on. And I'm just looking at Klopp, and I'm sitting there and I'm just watching him, and I'm just thinking to myself, what runs through your brain when you think of these things sometimes? Like, you know, I was listening to a space earlier on, and, you know, so, I can't remember who it was, shout out, they don't know who they are, but shout out themselves, and they mentioned about, you know, with Klopp substitutions, it seems like, and I agree with this, by the way, it almost seems like he's not making substitutions in game with what's actually going on. They just look like pre-planned substitutions. So you bring Trent off, you know, I think, you know, Millie comes on, you know, you're bringing, you know, your Caters, your Bajcetic off. Like, you're bringing all of these people off, not because they're playing poorly or anything like that, but you're bringing them off because you've planned, okay, before the game, guys, you're going to get 50 minutes or you're going to get 60 minutes or 65 or whatever it is. You're just bringing them off. So are you watching the game? Like, do you understand I'm questioning now. Do you understand the mechanics of what's going on? Like, is that normal to you, for you to be doing, like, I understand it maybe with certain players in certain situations, but where this has been going on for so long now I'm looking at it thinking, like, I'm trying my hardest not to be rude, but I'm just like, are you okay? Like, are you genuinely okay? Like, do you understand what's going on here? Like, do you understand that your team is playing one of the worst brand of football in the league at this present moment in time? Like, do you understand that they are just not performing to whatever level you need them to perform to get a tune out of them? Do you get that? So do you also get that there are certain players who are key to that, who are key to the fact that the team is playing poorly? Like your Fabinho's, like your Hendersons. You know, Fabinho just epitomised it. I mean, you saw it yourself, you know. Should have been sent off and maybe in another game, you know, get sent off, and no one's going to sit there and say, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? No, well, and if you are, I'm thinking, poor bloody hell, imagine someone did that to you. The first thing you'd be saying is red card. Do you know what I mean? If that was against your team, first thing Liverpool fans all over will be like, yep, that's a red card straight away. How didn't he get a red card? VAR, they're paying off the referees, all of that crap. You got a yellow card. No, whatever, cool, we move on. But, you know, his performance didn't exactly improve or anything like that. Henderson, just Henderson. You know, just as the Henderson that we've got now, you know, is what it is. Jones, the same thing. You know, even Trent coming off, it's like, again, unless he's carrying some type of injury or whatever the case may be, you know, yes, in my personal opinion, he was getting cooked by Mitoma. Mitoma had his number. You know, it was this wasn't one of those ones where you're like, oh yeah, he's in his, let's check my pocket because, you know, he might be, you know, Mitoma might be in there. Like, nah, if anything, that's the other way around. You know, Mitoma was absolutely fantastic. My man of the match. Played really, really well alongside McAllister as well, who I thought was pretty good as well in the middle. but it just nothing from Klopp is just making sense. He said after the game, we're not going to be making no signings. Effectively, he's happy with the squad, the way it is and things like that. And what more can we say? We're not like, man can't sit here and say, oh yeah, Klopp, you just got to come out and start slamming everybody and this, that, and the third. Like, I'm not asking for these kind of things, but we're just asking for honesty, bro. That is just all I'm asking for. I'm just asking for you to be honest with yourself almost, because I think that you're even lying to yourself now, that because you're lying to yourself so much, and you now believe it, you have to now stick with that. You can't go back on your word. Klopp can't now come out and start saying, this, that, and blah, blah, blah. He did that in the summer. And look what we got. We got Arthur Melo, a guy that I don't think I've seen. I think he played all of 13 minutes of football for Liverpool. Been injured ever since. The injury lists, some of the players getting injured, where Klopp will say one thing, Firmino, 1 minute it was he's only out for a couple of games. I think I was expecting him back for the Aston Villa game that we won at Villa Park. I haven't seen him since for God knows how long. Darwin Núñez on the bench again. Fair enough, I'm not too fussed, really and truly. I wasn't even too fussed with the lineup, to be honest with you, because I thought, okay, I expect you to win now, because that's effectively your best lineup without Darwin Núñez, obviously with the injuries that are going on, the long-term injuries like Van Dijk, Jota, Diaz obviously being out, but this is kind of your strongest team. This is the team that you want to go with, especially with the defence and, the midfield, goalkeeper as well. It's just really the attack that you'd probably just change, Harvey Elliott potentially with Darwin Núñez. I expect a better performance. I expect more fluency. I expect the guys to be a lot more intense. I expect all of these things, thinking, Klopp's the one picking this team. I expect them to go out and do that. But unfortunately, they're not. Now, of course, not all on Klopp. The players also have to hold, some level of responsibility. But, it's at this present moment in time, I don't really I do know, but it's like, where do you kind of go from here? It is really the question. Like, what do you do from here? Look, you're knocked out of the FA Cup. You're knocked out of the Carabao Cup. You're sitting 9th in the Premier League, and you got Real Madrid coming up. Real Madrid, it's a two-legged tie. Anything can happen, as we know, with Champions League football. Am I optimistic? No. Even though Real Madrid haven't been that great, I'm still not that optimistic. Don't really care about the Anfield nights and stuff like that, because Leeds have come here and popped us. So forget Anfield nights. Do you know what I mean? We need to be worrying about just playing football and being able to just win matches convincingly, especially against, one of the best teams out there in Europe. So, that's going to be a test in itself. So it'll be interesting to see, what we look like come that time. Maybe a couple players will be back. I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm just looking at Klopp and I'm just like, I just want to know how people defend this sometimes with Klopp. I want to understand how people look at this and say, yeah, man, I've got ultimate faith in Klopp. As soon as, if we get money, oh my goodness, he's going to be this, that, and the third. I'm looking at you now during our worst. I want to know, what do you do to get us out of this situation? Or what can you do? Within all the power that you do have, and I mean money, the tools, the infrastructure, everything. What do you have within your arsenal to be able to get us out of this situation? Does it look like you can even get us out of this situation? The answer is no. It can't be a yes. You can't just say, yeah, we'll give him 300 million and he'll go out and spend it. No, he won't do that, first and foremost. Even if he did do that, the team's not exactly just going to start changing the way they play. They're still going to play the same way. Do you know what I mean? It's just, honestly, man, it's just one of those things. And, Brighton have just got our number. And I get that as well. I do get that. Sometimes certain teams, just have your number. It's just one of them kind of games. But I think for me, like I said, this season, again, I've had to be reduced to this because of how poor Liverpool are both on and off the pitch, and how they've been, especially this season, but for quite a while now, is that my expectations are so high, I have to lower them. I can't keep them at this high rate anymore, and I've stopped anyway, which is why I always expect us to lose, because I'm like, it's probably easier to expect us to lose because that's what we do this season. We've lost quite a few games. Where I thought, yeah, we'd win that. Nottingham Forest, Leeds United, Fulham, Crystal Palace, games like this, I thought, oh yeah, Brighton, I thought we'd just come out and win. But we, ultimately we didn't. We either lost or drew the games, So, looking at Liverpool this season, they're so inconsistent. You just don't know where the next win's even going to come from in the first place. So for you to be like, yeah, we went on a 4-game Premier League winning run. That was the ugliest 4-game winning run I've ever seen. The win against Leicester, it was such crappy performances that you just knew it was about to stumble at some point in time, and it did. You know what I mean? Deservedly so, and it did. You know, and now we're in this situation now. We've started the year. We've won one game, which is the FA Cup replay against Wolves. We are now coming up to February. Liverpool have won one football match this calendar year in 2023. You know, that. What more can I then say or express to then ask the question of, are you happy with Jurgen right now? Are you literally, can you as a fan sit there and look at me and say, yeah, I'm confident in Jurgen, he can turn this around, don't worry about it, the lads will do this, that and the other. You know, people keep saying, oh, don't worry, wait for such and such to come back. Come back and do what? Like, I'm even struggling to understand that. We've been stinking up the place with everybody here. So what difference does it make if these guys come back? I mean, we can go from 9th to 6th. I hear that. I fully hear that. I can, maybe if they come back, I can see something like that. But, you know, the fact that I'm saying from 9th to 6th, who are we, Brighton? Are we Fulham? You know, is that the level that we are at this current moment in time, that when players come back, I'm going to be happy, or I should be happy with the fact that we could jump from like a 9th to maybe a 6th place? Do me a favour. Do me a favour, man. That's just embarrassing, man. That's just embarrassing. So, of course, I'll keep looking at Klopp until you do something, until he can turn this around that people keep telling me he can do. If he can do it, no problem. No problem. We back whoever, but I can't sit here and back a manager who has no idea what he's doing in the matches. I can't sit here and back a manager whose tactical nous is just all over the gaff. I can't do that. I'm sorry. I just can't do that. My priorities is Liverpool. Couldn't care less. Jurgen goes, good, cool. You know what I mean? We move on. Liverpool will still be standing here if he was to leave, just like every other manager that has come and gone, you know, from Liverpool Football Club. But I'm just finding it difficult when people then try to argue the case. I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying. I get what you're trying to, what you're getting at, but there's no evidence to suggest it. At the moment, the only evidence to suggest is that he's got to go. Because at the moment, he just can't do whatever it is we need him to do at this moment in time. Players are not listening. Players are not carrying out their instructions and stuff like that. It's easier if, you cut ties rather than, holding out for something that may not actually happen, and you're praying that, some miracle turns around. Even though next season, regardless of who we sign, considering that, we're not going to get, I don't think we make Champions League next season unless we win it. Or I'm saying this in January, or we're basically in February now, but we're looking at it and we're saying, yes, Liverpool could make the top 4. Obviously, mathematically, yes, we are still within that race. I mean, mathematically, I'm sure we could even still win the title. Now, we're banking on Arsenal, Manchester United, Manchester City, Newcastle, Tottenham, Fulham, Brighton, Brentford, Chelsea even. We're banking on about 9 teams anyway to kind of have shit ends to the season, so that we can, leapfrog a few of those teams anyway. Do I think we can leapfrog a couple? Yeah. I don't think we potentially finish 9th. If we do, Klopp would have to go. I would definitely be, at the front of that queue, saying I'm not accepting 9th. I couldn't care less. And there are no excuses for that. You cannot finish 9th. That's too embarrassing, man. You've got, the club cannot move forward with a manager who's finishing 9th, in the Premier League, especially when you're supposed to be a club who's challenging. Different when it's like Arsenal, all these other guys. Yeah, they're not challenging. This is the first season Arsenal have ever challenged. Look at them now. Do you get what I mean? Yes, they've spent some money, but look at them. It's not like they've gone out and bought a Van Dijk. It's not like they've gone out and got a Mo Salah. It's not like they've gone out and bought a, Sadio Mane. Like, they haven't got any of these guys. They've just, through coaching, good style of play, and understanding what the team needs, is why they're able to push forward. And at the moment, Klopp just doesn't seem like the guy who's able to show me that he can do that. So, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. But, in regards to back to the game in itself, just another game, another defeat for Liverpool. We're so used to it now. Honestly, so used to it that it doesn't even hurt anymore. This ain't one of those ones where you're like, oh, that really burned me inside. Nah, that died a long time ago, a very, very long time ago. With losing games, especially in the manner that we're losing games. Yes, this was a last minute goal, but Brighton were probing and probing and probing. So it was one of those where it was probably destined to come, and it came from probably the right man, which is Mitoma, because in my opinion he played fantastically well. I'm looking at him and I'm looking at Minamino. I'm thinking, bloody hell, who's doing the scouting? Who's scouting all of these guys, man? Because whoever's scouting these guys, yet again, you got it wrong. You got it wrong. But it is what it is. Out of the FA Cup now. I can't even say, like Arsenal, they're out of the FA Cup. We can focus on the league now, try and win that Premier League. I mean, we're out of the FA Cup and we're out of the FA Cup. There's no focus on the league, you know. We're not doing anything special in the league. So he's gonna probably have to put, you know, all of his eggs into, you know, the into the Champions League. So it's gonna be interesting to see. It's gonna be interesting to see. But yeah, Liverpool 1, Brighton 2 at the Amex Stadium, out of the FA Cup, and we move, man. Let me know what you guys think, your thoughts on the game, you know, good performances, stuff like that. Make sure you tune into the Jerry James show. We're doing a tactics board and stuff like that. So yeah, just make sure you guys tune in. Obviously, we've got deadline day stuff to come out over the next couple of days. So yeah, just make sure you guys stay tuned. Make sure you slap that like button. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. And I'm G, and I am out.